Recording in progress.
Forgot my glasses this morning, but that'll be okay. Good morning. Welcome, everybody. Calling the City of Griffin Board of Commissioners morning workshop. Item 1 is to consider executive session pursuant to OCGA Section 5014 3B2 for the purpose of discussing or deliberating upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action, or dismissal or periodic evaluation or rating of public officers or employees pursuant to OCGA Section 5014-2-1 for the purpose of consulting and meeting with legal counsel pertaining to pending or potential litigation, settlement, claims, administrative proceedings, or other jurisdictional actions brought or to be brought by or against the agency or any offices or employee or in which the agency or any officer or employee may be directly involved and pursuant to OCGA Section 5014 3B1B for the purpose of authorizing negotiation to purchase, dispose of, or lease property. Do we have a motion going to executive session?
Make a motion.
Commissioner Murray with a motion.
Second.
Commissioner Tinsley with a second. All in favor, please join us in the rear. Forgot my glasses today. Did that? No. You're not trying. Take your pen? Yes. Good morning. Happy day, folks. This was from the movie set, so we decided just to keep it for now. Under fire, fire execution wall, line me up on it, shoot. I'm sorry, there's two. Okay.
Recording stopped. Recording in progress.
Do we have a motion to come back in from executive session?
Second.
Mrs. Ward with a motion, second by Commissioner Murray. If we can give us 2 minutes, take a break right quick.
Mayor, do you want us to order lunch?
I don't know yet. Yeah, maybe make that thing
Oh, oh, they were gonna email me? Okay, let me, I'll check on that. That's okay, I got it right here. Oh, okay, good.
I just wanted to make sure that I didn't double.
No, that's wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'll get that done.
I know it, not because we just let it and
It's obvious Doug didn't go to Moore Elementary because he wanted to talk to me in the restroom. And at Moore Elementary, we don't talk to people while we're in the restroom.
Yeah.
You learned that in elementary school, huh?
We don't
You learned that in elementary school? That's a story right
I
there.
got your jacket.
we don't do that. Hey, I don't have my excuse for
Where's the cake?
who got the key to that building? I'm thirsty.
Susan. I was thinking Susan.
Go get me some food.
You don't have the same cake.
Thirsty.
Well, I can't do this.
In the succession plan, our next city manager will be.
You know what? They should have.
We all been catered. Around 12. Okay, we got 1, 2.
A quarter to 12.
A quarter of 12. She said maybe up to 12. Okay, what are we doing? Go 1, 2, 3, 4. We got enough.
but we can get that, listen, let her talk.
Brad's
Tell her
here.
what she
You
got.
see Holly.
Do you realize
She
I
is
told
the
you
girl
yesterday?
from
You realize that?
Holly, she in the bathroom.
Jesus Christ. Whoa. Gee. Thank you. Really?
The 25th is when, this week, Friday. The retirement party. The 23rd is tomorrow. These two right here, Rick Box and, White, I think it's right here. The Taylor. 3 this week.
All right, welcome everybody. Thank you for y'all's patience. Item 2 is to discuss projected combined public utility bond funding for the Shoal Creek Water Pollution Control Plant improvements. Director of Water Wastewater Brandon Lewis and Raymond James, Management Director Bill Campbell, the address. Welcome.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to give a brief history of kind of why we're talking about this today, and then we'll bring up Mr. Camp to talk about the financial impacts of how, or the funding options we have for these projects that we need to do. There's 2 projects that are really comprising this, the need for these revenue bonds. One is the Shoal Creek wastewater plant upgrade and conversion from a land application site to a direct discharge facility. 2 things are accomplished here. One, the EPD issued a consent order right at 2 years ago now, in June of 23, requiring us to get our land application site at Bland Mill in compliance with Georgia's drinking water standards. The issue is there that for the better part of 2 decades, that LAS has not been able to meet drinking water standards with respect to nitrite and nitrate chemicals that is derived from the wastewater that's being sprayed onto the pine, the planted pines. So we did a feasibility study with our engineers, KCI. We basically, for the better part of 4 years now, have been evaluating these options and determined that what we've agreed to do and what we're currently engineering is the best option for us, and that is to decommission the LAS, upgrade the Shoal Creek facility to direct discharge, and at the same time expand the capacity of Shoal Creek's facility, because it is currently at over 80% of its current hydraulic capacity. So upgrading a wastewater plant is an extremely costly venture. We have really gotten outside of the box and away from just a conventional approach of addressing this issue. We've selected a treatment process that has not been implemented in the U.S. yet. It is successful and has a very reputable process company backing it, and that's what we're going to implement here in Griffin. It's going to save us somewhere on the magnitude of $5 per gallon. So we're going from a 2.25 up to a 5 MGD facility, which equates to about $25 million savings going this route versus just building a new plant to do the same job that we need to do. The other issue is Potato Creek collection system. It's about 100 years old in parts of it. If you guys remember, in 21 we commissioned a sewer flow study, a 12-month sewer flow study. We learned that we have in 3 focused areas of our Potato Creek sewer basin, we have about 10 gallons per minute per foot of pipe of water infiltration coming into our system. That is across about 150,000 feet of pipe. So I don't have my calculator out, but if we did the math there, it's many million gallons of water coming in from rain events that we are having to treat, that we're having to pump, that is causing violations in our system. It's resulting in spills, which results in EPDs fining us. and has had us for the last few years on the verge of having to go under consent for correction of that issue as well. We were able to avoid going under consent order with EPD by saying, hey, we're aware of the situation, being proactive with them, talking about it, and saying, here's a corrective action plan that we're committing to. We've proposed that corrective action plan to them. They've received it. We continue to update them as we progress. This is what all those sanitary sewer evaluation studies were for, the 3 that we've done with LJA. So, so we're at the point where we're about to finish up the last one and have the design work completed for the rehabilitation of that collection system. These 2 projects, the Shoal Creek project is estimated currently at about $45 million. The improvements and rehabilitation of the Potato Creek sewer collection system is estimated at about $20 million. So there's at this point in the planning and engineering phase, where there's a plus or minus on that figure, but that's where we're at right now. Historically, as you know, we have many GFA loans, Georgia Environmental Finance Authority. 3 years ago, they revamped their loan program. They're not loaning out larger sums of money. They're focusing on smaller projects. They limited their drinking water funds to, I believe it was $12 million per project, and sewer funding is limited to $8 million per project. And some other changes to the program doesn't make it a really good fit for what we need to do now. So Drew and I have conferred on this many times, and Jessica, and also Deborah, along with Bill Camp and the Raymond James group, and have determined that bonds is the route that we're going to have to go to finance these 2 projects. And with that, I'll bring up Bill.
Welcome, Mr. Camp.
Good to be with y'all.
Yes, sir.
I know you've had a full day already, and this is going to be pretty detailed, so I apologize in advance. We just wanted to give y'all a view of what we're going to undertake on the bond issue. You've heard the why, you know how much, and we're going to show you how it's going to get paid back. Okay. Sorry, I did also points. If you do that, that works too. All right, so the bond issue is going to fund $65 million. That's 45 at one facility and 20 at another facility. Paying for cost of issuance, ratings, that sort of thing, our fees, legal fees. In the past, we've utilized bond insurance. This is paying a premium up front that buys us a higher rating, slightly higher rating, and that bump up in rating helps us get a lower interest rate. We just evaluate what is the cost versus the benefit. But we do believe it's going to be effective, and we're going down the road of investigating that for you. Also, a debt service reserve fund is where we set aside an annual amount of debt service in an account, right? And this is going to be a pretty big number. So our advice is we can buy an insurance product, a debt service reserve surety policy, to cover that requirement. If you remember now, our 22 bond issue that refinanced your existing CPU bonds, we were able to negotiate with that single bondholder that those bonds don't require a debt service reserve fund. But these bonds are going to be in $5,000 denominations.
You give me 1 second.
Yes, sir.
So I know everyone's hungry. I've got to go back to work. My opinion at this point in time is that we get done with this presentation, and then we postponed the goals section of the retreat either this evening after our meeting, or we do it or do it another day. But I mean, we've already been going for 3.5 hours, so just need consensus. Do we want to keep going all day today? Or do we want to call it quits after this part, and then we'll deal with the next meeting on the goals part?
If does that meet any of your timelines, Mississippi?
Well, it's gonna change all your stats, cause it's a whole nother month if we wait until the next workshop. It's probably about it's 11 slides, it's a lot of information. So it's probably a 30 to 45 minute at best update. So.
I said we get the updates. If we're gonna have lunch come in, let's keep it rolling.
I think timing wise, you should go ahead with this, 'cause this is really
Yes, I know we
seeking
gotta
your
get this done.
authorization.
They just talked about the
Right.
third one.
Yeah, okay.
I just say, if we can excuse Doug, just press on.
Yeah, that's fine, because it's just an update. We're not taking any official action
that's
on
fine.
anything. Yeah.
Are we ordering lunch?
So sorry.
No, no.
Go on through.
Hook and ladder
Yeah.
for me.
Hook and ladder? Oh, yeah,
Yes.
firehouse.
Who do I pay?
Everything? Well,
Can I get something brown to go with this?
If you get decent.
Sorry about this, sir. I apologize.
Just be real.
Oh, you,
Little
you
Woodford?
meant Coca-Cola.
Yeah, not Woodford Reserve, but Coca-Cola. Yeah, right.
Okay. You got,
We go ahead, go ahead.
Go.
okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Campbell.
No, no.
Thank you.
And I'm gonna go through this, and if you have
You're good.
a good question or just
Thank
any
you.
anecdote, just stop me. Also, because this is a combined public utility system, we want to structure these new bonds so that in aggregate, the system has level payments. And I'll show you the reason for that, but it's just good budgeting. So we're gonna have a delay in paying back principal, but there's a benefit for that. We call it wrapping around the existing bonds. Okay. This is our current estimate of what the bonds will look like. So on the left-hand side of this page, you see principal, you see a coupon column, you see interest, and you see totals. And our bonds will will pay interest only through 32 because that's the current final maturity of your other CPU bonds, combined public utility. We have water, sewer, and electric. We think all-in costs of about 5%, 5.1%, and weighted average maturity of about 19 years. So 25-year final maturity date, starting in 33. On average, we got about 19 years on our bonds. All right. A lot of info on this page, but historical actual revenues available for debt service. In other words, we're about to borrow a lot of money. And a lot of times systems have to engage engineers that show we're going to raise rates, fees, and charges, and we're going to get a whole, new customers in, and we're projecting out revenues. In your case, we can look back in recent history. This is 2024, and we take the revenues available from the system minus expenses. That's our net operating income. We add back some non-cash items like depreciation. We add to that real cash, which is interest income. And we come up with $30 million, $30.5 million available to pay debt service last year. And when we compare that to what the CPU bonds are going to cost you every year, about $8.5 million, we've got 3.6 times coverage. That's actual revenues from 2024 based on estimated debt service going forward. What I want you to understand is y'all are running the system well, and this is a lot of money, but you can afford it without radically changing what you're charging, okay? And when we add in the GFA loans, which they're junior lien, meaning they come second after paying the CPU bondholders, When we add in GFA loans, you're still 2.5 times coverage. Now that's for 2024. We've gone all the way back, this is 5 years, but all along the way, we're 3 times coverage on CPU and 2-something times coverage. And your requirement is a 120. So again, you're doing a great job, okay? And these are needs, and you can afford it based on what you're currently charging. Timetable. Everything on there could change, but this is our plan of attack right now. Your staff and your bond counsel and disclosure counsel, Griffin and Woodward, are in the process of preparing the official statement. That's our offering document that we use to get the bonds rated and to market to investors. We're going to get that out and up to Moody's Investor Service early in August, and have a rating in hand hopefully before the end of August, and be able to come back to you Tuesday, September 9th with a priced bond issue ready for your approval, and be able to close the bonds in mid-October. Again, things can be slowed down if they need to, but this is our current plan of attack.
So the average rate of interest is around 5%?
That's the all-in cost, yes, sir. When we factor in not only interest expense and cost of issuance, about 5%. That's a moving number until we price the bonds and come back here to get your approval. You'll see all the details of the transaction, but yes, sir, that's our estimate. Projections at this point.
And if the Federal Reserve drops interest rates or anything, will that price potentially be lower, or
it wouldn't hurt you. When the Fed lowers rates, which they have done in 25 already, and we expect them to do it again, they're lowering overnight lending rates. So like your really short-term fixed rates will be lowered. What we've seen in the last weeks is if this is 1 year and this is 30 year, what we've seen is the shorter end of the curve come down and the longer end go up. And that's steepening of the curve. For many years now, we've had a pretty flat yield curve, and now it's back to what is normal. It's got more steepness on the curve right now than it has in a decade. So that's not good when we're selling bonds that mature on average about 19 years out. What's causing that is really fear of inflation and some rumblings about firing the Fed chief. You know, I hope some of that will calm down before we get to September.
We're looking at 30-year bonds, you said 20-year bonds.
These are 25 years.
25-year bonds.
They go out as far as 25 years. That's all that can be tweaked.
Where we did the 02 bonds, that was a 30-year bond.
That was a 30,
so
yes,
why
right.
are we not looking at 30-year versus 25-year?
Trying to keep the rate down a little bit. If we go, we definitely could lengthen the final maturity, but our max annual debt service doesn't change much because we're layering on top of existing. But I'll work with your staff to show you all those options and see pros versus cons. This is just a chart. This is the 20-year tax exempt rate. You can kind of see what's been going on. Generally going up. Long-term rates have been going up. 22 is when you refinanced your CPU bonds. The beginning of 22, in fact, February, March is when you locked your rate in. This is the steepness of the curve I was talking about. The red shows you where we are today, and the dark curve is an average for the last about 30 years. So short-term rates are actually higher than they historically should be, and the red rates kind of show you where we're at or around normal. This is you can't hardly see this, I'm sorry, some data that suggests economists agree with you, Mayor, that Fed's going to lower short-term rates at some point in 25. And the market sort of baked that in, to be honest with you. That's why short-term's coming down a little bit. The real reason that we're borrowing the money, we got to have it to accomplish these projects, but we can't just set aside cash for years to try to build something like this because inflation happens. Hopefully things have mellowed out since 21 and 22. But again, there's some concern that we're going to continue to have inflation, and that's really what bonds are. They're a hedge against that. You're able to lock your cost of these projects in today and go on and build them. And that's it. I appreciate y'all's patience. I know you've had like I said, a long day already. And we're happy to try to answer any questions you may have. And I'll run those 30 years for y'all so you can see the difference.
You said September is when you come to us for the price?
Yes, ma'am. We anticipate pricing on the same day as your regular scheduled meeting, which is Tuesday, September 9th. And we'll have details for you to see where every nickel's going of the bond money, how the bonds have been priced, comparison to the market. And again, a lot of documents for you to approve, but basically you'll approve that final pricing at your regular meeting.
That schedule keeps us on track with being in compliance with EPD's consent order. We have until, I think it's October of 20, excuse me. Yeah, by the end of 2028, we have to stop sending water to the LAS. They gave us a 5-year compliance schedule with their consent order.
And so the 2002 bonds, the $54 million, I believe, was original, will be paid out 2032. We pay
Yes, sir.
interest only through 2032, get those bonds paid, even though those are mainly backed by for water infrastructure, where these are sewer.
Yes, sir. You're right.
Right.
But you get the use of water,
Combined
sewer.
utility, right, understand,
That's
right.
And electric.
So, any questions?
No, it's good. Thank you.
And how soon do you think you'll start being able to start rebuilding the Potato Creek Basin, which will then give us additional capacity at that plant, hopefully for growth? And then,
Yes.
And then at what point do we start dealing with the I&I issue in the Shoal Creek Basin that could potentially give us some capacity?
That's very good. Two very good points. One, I'm glad it's not missed on you, is that when you fix I&I issues, you gain back capacity in the plant. It's cheaper
Lower
to fix
cost.
I&I than to build more capacity of the plant. The Shoal Creek Basin is actually the lowest priority. After we did our flow studies in all 3 basins, we learned that Potato Creek was the worst, which makes sense because that's where we have all our spills. And then Cabin Creek is behind it.
Okay.
So that in Shoal Creek is the main issue with capacity in Shoal Creek. It is and really has been the plant being at over 80% of its flow capacity. There are a couple bottleneck issues, but nothing like what we're seeing in Potato Creek or even Cabin Creek basins.
So then we're going to have to start looking at funding stream in regards to rebuilding.
Yeah, and
Harry Simmons.
yes.
Then we're going to go into borrow more money to rebuild unless we can cash flow it. Cabin Creek, because it's not as big of a
Right. Yeah, and that is my
basin.
my
So
anticipation.
cash flow, but then potentially borrow
Right.
money.
That's my
As the other
anticipation for
projects
Cabin
roll
is,
off.
yeah, to
Or
cash
the
flow
GEPA
that.
loans get paid off and things.
Correct. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So we can get started on the potato improvements if we, if we stick to this proposed schedule, we could see work beginning in Potato Basin by the end of this calendar year.
Okay. So would we bid that whole project in one big bite, or would we phase that?
So that is the recommendation from LJA. The engineering is not 100% complete because we're at about 70% on the final SSES, in the Potato Basin. But their basic recommendation is do it all now, because it's the only way you can really drive your costs down is to just, go big on the scope.
We got the money, so we can roll and go.
So what I asked them to do was prioritize the work that needed to be done in the basin of priority levels 1, 2, and 3. 3 being things that we could feasibly do in-house with our own resources over a period of time. Priority levels 1 and 2 is what they're going to build the scope for putting it out to bid. And that keeps the cost down a bit. But priority levels 1 and 2 is basically 90% of the issues.
Any questions of the board? Looks like you've done your homework. Good job.
Sir. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr. Camp, thank you for being here. Sorry you had your delay.
Thanks for letting me, no problem at all. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir. All right, moving into discussion of our 2025 annual goals and objectives. Last year, we changed up a little bit in terms of our city commission retreat. Instead of us letting, staff wag us, we wagged ourselves. So we're going to review the commission objectives as well as the citywide goals from staff and kind of do an evaluation of what we've done the last 6 months and kind of an after-action review and evaluation of where we're at. So, Mr. O'Connor, so the floor is yours.
Okay. All right, so what we have before you now is exactly what Mayor just explained. So we'll start with the staff goals. Our first goal for this year was improving city rights-of-way. We wanted to do that in several different fashions, but the first one was performing tree maintenance on circuits 12 and 15. We wanted to do that by August 1st. Circuit 12 is sort of the southeastern quadrant of the city. I'm on Circuit 12 and seems to have the most dead big trees. And so that's already been complete. They have been able to trim the trees that were needed in that area. Circuit 15 is in sort of your northeast quadrant of the city. Also has a lot of big trees, but also some that are dead as well. So 60% of that circuit has been complete as of now. There are a few streets remaining in Circuit 15, which are Morris, Pelly, Circus, and Kennedy, and they will be completed in the next few weeks. So that one is well on its way. The second thing we wanted to do to improve city rights-of-way is look at the abandoned poles and utilities that are throughout the right-of-way. Have a lot of people come up to me and say, your linemen must be lazy because I see a new pole there and they just left that other pole. So I ask them, go look at the second pole and see if it's what we call topped. Where it is topped, what is right below that is more than likely some kind of black or silver box, and that is because it's another utilities equipment that is still on our pole. And so there are certain legal processes that we have to go about to be able to have those removed. We didn't even know what was in the area at this point, so we are looking at the feeder 1 area because that's where we're doing fiber expansion. So we need stuff to come off poles to be able to put new stuff on poles. That is the North Hill Street area from Broad Street to Thomas Drive, and then from 6th Street to the new Thomaston Mills are now going to be called the Carlisle development. In that area, they have audited so far 370 poles, which is about 50% of that area. They found 71 broken poles, 12 that need other utilities to be transferred. 140 have utilities that have been abandoned by the prior utility company, and then 209 have no problems and they don't have duplicative poles. So our next steps is to go through the legal process to notify the other utility companies that they need to remove their utilities so that we can then remove our poles. Ironically, in the past few months, we've had a couple different discussions in regards to poles falling, so it's very important that we complete that process timely. However, we do get an economic incentive when they do not remove their poles timely. They have to pretty much pay us pole rent, which they do anyway, so they're sort of paying double. So but we still need them removed if they are not using them anymore. So we will step up that process in the next few months to get that notification done and have those removed. If they don't and they're considered abandoned, then we have a process that we can go through to remove the pole as well.
That's where you got 2 poles, one standing.
Yes, ma'am. One is big and tall and one is cut almost in half depending on where the utility is located because we couldn't cut past that utility without going through that notification process.
Is that, are those poles that were there before the city put their poles up?
Yes, there are poles.
That was a month, okay.
Yeah, most of the time. There could be instances where it might be somebody else's, that we didn't have a pole there, and that's something that we can address as well, because it's in our right of way. But I would say probably 95% are gonna be City of Griffin poles.
We do have a number from ECG of how many poles we believe are owned by other people. And so if we come across those related to this process, we can let ECG know, just to clarify with that other utility to confirm it's not our pole.
Okay, question. I remember us saying that the fence around the property is going to be what? Around the Carlisle property? The fencing.
I don't.
It was something about they couldn't
Yeah, I don't know.
separate it, gate it off from the community. You know how that? You remember that? How us in it?
Yeah.
Because I was concerned about, whether that was going to be a gated community, with for like a security code to get into it, or.
I would have to pull the plans, but I do not know off the top of my head.
Okay. Is there anything in the works where somebody might be trying to acquire the property that's right in front of it? Or what's the code enforcement? What is code doing with that block
When
in
you
front
say
of that
right in front,
development?
you mean the houses on?
On the
Quilly?
Palace.
Or
On the Palace.
yeah, Quilly. There is no plan for that, not that I know of. They haven't, code is in that area, so they address it, but there's not, I have not heard from the developer that they want to buy
those
it.
houses from their part on I
Yes,
guess it's the
they
city
do.
easement, but, does the property actually belong to that development?
It would be our right of way.
And so will we still be letting them park there?
That is a very touchy subject. Y'all don't enforce no parking zones often. You allow parking in the right of way. So you did draft an ordinance, from my understanding, several years ago, well before my time, about parking on grass, but we don't
But between
enforce
those
that.
houses, is there anywhere, property where they could have driveways on that side?
They do, some of them do have driveways. They're very short though. I've never looked at a survey of that area, but I would even believe that probably some of the houses within the right of way. They're real close.
And I think that a lot of the houses cross property lines.
Yeah.
Potentially as well. They're very, very small.
Property line to the
Like
adjacent
if
house?
there is a driveway that is there, it's possible that it is actually located on two properties.
Yeah.
And
Those
there's a lot
lots
of
are old, and I don't know. We do.
Yeah, when they
We've
were
never
all,
looked into
owned by
all
the
that.
mill, it wasn't a problem because they had the same ownership.
joint
but
ownership,
as
yeah.
they've been divided out, there have been some issues. But is there a particular code enforcement concern on Palace other than just the parking?
The children playing in the street, the cars
Yeah,
come around
all
the
the
curb, about to
time.
run them over.
All the time.
And the traffic is gonna really pick up there,
It is.
so.
Okay. All right, any other questions on that one?
That was
Okay.
it.
The third one to improve city rights of way is to create and implement a landscape maintenance plan for Zone 1. Zone 1 is our northeast quadrant of the city, and we wanted to have that done by December 31st. That plan has already been created. Code enforcement has already done a lot of sort of right-of-way audit improvement suggestions. They found 20 different areas where we have overgrown bush that you can't, there are pedestrian or visual obstruction for cars, spots that need grass, that kind of things that then Public Works will come back and address with that maintenance plan. But we'll wait until better fall weather. It's too hot to plant right now. So that will be going on in the next couple months.
See you tonight.
Jessica, is there a plan for, that was Zone 1.
Yes.
So what about the other quadrants? Just
This is the only thing that we discussed for this year. This is this year's goals. So Zone 1, I think, is some of the oldest
the problem.
right-of-way stuff, and so we felt like that was the highest priority at this
Absolutely,
point.
sure, okay. Just
But that can be looked at in coming years if that's the pleasure of the board.
I was just wondering, like through the thoroughfares and where high traffic areas are for all zones? Just,
Well, we'll actually talk about some of that in a little bit.
oh, okay.
Zone 1 is, across the track
Northeast,
For this northeast quadrant right here.
northeast quadrant, yeah.
Mhm.
northeast.
So,
Mm-hmm.
I have some examples.
Okay, so what is, northwest is, northeast, does that include, the Thomas DeMille area?
Yes, it would.
Okay,
It pretty much is North Expressway-ish, what they
Okay.
consider. So you've got, and I don't know, we actually sort of laughed about this as staff, how we chose zones versus districts versus what people understood. And so we look at zone 1 is if you're here at City Center, you're gonna have this quadrant. This is zone 2, which these are PD zones. Zone 3, and then zone 4. And
zone
this
4 is
zone
across
5.
North Expressway.
Across North Expressway, it's more Commissioner McCord's district.
Okay,
And
Yep.
zone 1 was chosen in relation as staff, based on your objectives
Mhm.
for zone 1 general cleanliness. So those
I
were-
remember we did it, but I'm just trying to make sure, really make sure about where it is.
Yes. All right. Staff goal number 2 is transportation improvements. So we were really heavy on public works this year, we realized. They are going to conduct a street assessment by July 1st for paving priorities, which they have done. That was completed on May 2nd. I did provide a link there. You're able to look at that with a login, which I can give you so you can see that and have access to it. We also created a resurfacing plan for when repairs are made to streets with utilities scheduled infrastructure improvements. This is something that Mayor brought up during y'all's goals workshop, because we've had times where if we have planned for water lines to be renewed or wastewater lines to be renewed or a stormwater drain to be replaced, then we need to make sure that's not on the paving list the year before. That looks pretty bad to go in and pave it and then have us come back out and do scheduled routine updates or maintenance. Now, emergencies happen all day long. Y'all know that. We can't do anything about that. For the most part, we have done better even with these quarterly meetings to discuss, hey, we've got a leak over here. We'll get to that in a couple months, so please don't do anything with that. But if we have a huge water main break in the middle of the road, obviously, if it was just paved, I'm sorry, we gotta handle it. So like I said, they meet quarterly to do that, and they'll be meeting again by the end of this month to have another quarterly meeting. Also, through our street assessment, we are all aware that we need to mill and resurface streets. That was why we asked for T-SPOS money from our citizens. So we will have 5 miles of streets milled and resurfaced by December 31st. You all just approved at your last meeting the roads in which we will be paving, and that includes 6.08 miles of streets. So we will have that 5 miles done close to the end of the year. Again, that's weather dependent these days. And then lastly, for transportation improvements, we want to improve sidewalk connectivity. There was a lengthy discussion about where and why. East College Street from Hamilton to Grandview will be a big difference because we're going to be doing that intersection improvement. If you remember, that's also a T-SPOS project. So Hamilton, College, and Kincaid will be an intersection improvement. Those actually will go out to bid soon, and I can update you more of that in the commission objectives, because it was one for this as well. We will be straightening Kincaid and Hamilton. So right now you make that quick right from Kincaid and then left onto Hamilton. While there's not a lot of accidents there, shockingly, it's bad and it's difficult and it gets very backed up. And so we bought the property that is currently vacant. We acquired more right-of-way from the couple property owners that were needed down Hamilton. And so we will be able to straighten that up, and we're actually proposing a 4-way stop. So people on College will have to stop, which will also slow down traffic on College Street.
Do we have an assessment or a map just looking, just like bird's eye, just the sidewalk connectivity, or just basically what's listed here, but do we have like a map or something?
No, we don't of these 4 specific ones.
That's okay.
But as we're sort of going through them, you will certainly have that.
Oh, okay.
And this will continue down Hamilton as well. So we have a pedestrian bridge that will cross the Culvert Creek down there before Tufts and the shopping center on the left, and it will go all the way up to Memorial Drive.
Okay.
So that'll be a good connectivity that we have not had. So that's exciting there. The second one that I'm really excited about is Ellis Road. So if you ever traverse Ellis Road from Experiment to North Expressway, it is highly traveled. This is going to be a difficult task and actually will have to involve a stormwater project, because the right side of the road is stormwater culvert and UGA Griffin. The left side of the road is houses, which again, right-of-way wise, there's not a lot, and even if there is, they may have been built into right-of-way. And so the best case scenario is probably gonna be on the right side, so we're not condemning houses. But that's going to be a huge stormwater upgrade, which is needed in that area anyway. We are very fortunate to have moved to the second round of potential grant funding. We're only one of 16 applicants to do so, so there's a half chance that we will be able to get that funded through grant money, because that's going to be an expensive proposition. So that's where we are on that one. Spalding Street to the city limits, that cost estimate is also complete. There are 6 construction easements that we will need to acquire next. I did want to let you know that for some reason we can only go to the city limits because that's where our jurisdiction ends. For some reason, when the county did their sidewalks, they did not go all the way to the city limits. There is going to be a break in new sidewalk. I do not know why. Marisa they figured that out when they were doing the construction drawings, so she brought that to me yesterday. So I'm not sure what that is about. I'm happy to talk with Dr. Ledbetter if you'd like me to about why they hadn't finished that. She said that Mr. Enberger with Public Works at the county said that there was no plan to do so. Yes, ma'am.
So have they done their sidewalk?
They have done their sidewalk.
And they stopped before they got to the city limit?
They did.
Because they felt like we was gonna do it.
I'm not sure, but we can't, you really got a double taxation issue to go outside the city limits in the county jurisdiction. So I'm not sure, but I will talk with him and find that out. And then lastly, we haven't started on this one. This is going to be the most difficult one. This is West Broadway from the Carlisle, from Palace to North Hill. You're dealing with a huge ravine, really, from the railroad tracks, and then you're dealing with the railroad tracks, but then you're also dealing with a private property owner and a huge curve on the Broadway, on the north side of West Broadway. So that's going to be difficult, but it's something that, like Ms. Ward's already noted, we're going to have a lot of foot traffic and vehicle traffic in that area, so we need to get that done. But that might take some creative solutions there. So that one sort of last on the list just because of difficulty, and the other ones will continue forward as soon as they can. Any questions on those? All right.
Can we eat through your presentation?
Sir?
Can we eat through your
Sure,
presentation?
absolutely.
Make us back.
All right. Do you want to take a break and do that?
If we take 2 minutes and get our food.
Yeah, that's
then
fine.
come back.
I need some water.
Sugar getting low, you know. I don't know what that is.
Recording stopped.
You not eating with us? You didn't order anything? I had. I was going, you didn't have half a mile?
Well, no.
Do we have any napkins?
According to the, I keep sending it wrong too. According to the, this say 55. Because of, the lot of the, that you might be home. And they figure out on the top. Okay, who you sending it to? Oh, okay. I'm at you. I call you, you text me. The one that was a couple weeks ago.
Get some down.
Perfect.
Hey, short time. Are you gonna trade in all your green for red? Oh, really?
I think it's my district, but that could be Brad's district. Okay.
You excited?
It meets right there.
Excited for you. Glad to see you go. I'm just kidding. I didn't want you to lose.
Oh my goodness.
No, it's not. When you get a chance to
Oh, okay.
move.
None of his better folks are out here.
No.
Okay.
But I'll
It,
let
it
Daniel.
connects to,
Thank you.
Brad's, I'm trying to think, Brad's, Rose one.
Good coach.
It might be Rose, part of it is mine and part of it is.
What do you want to let her know when
I will,
okay.
Who bought that, property
Over on Thompson Street.
out there where the back car?
That was your district.
I don't know.
On Thompson Street.
You do.
I have no idea. 634 Moody Street, we're not sure whose district it is, or meets the new where it's going to be. But I wanted to give y'all a heads up, there is a very odd
Oh, there you go.
search warrant that's about to be conducted that actually has nothing to do with any crime being committed. I have somebody shot somebody in Mars, and shot somebody over here, and then that group. And so, because of that, they're bringing in 2 U.S. Marshals and Jackson PD. We just have concerns about like somebody's gonna step ISIS.
But she think ice.
It's not, they're coming in there investigating because they think that's where they dumped everything.
All the way
Wow,
down.
they got us at another jurisdiction, so we're not worried about it. You go do what you do, we'll
I
have
think
some
that they
there
did, but we
just
went over
traffic
there.
control.
Traffic control,
But we're not,
and somebody
not-
calls,
Yeah,
and it's
but
not
like
us, we're not involved, we're just,
somebody up, yeah, we're just,
our PD's there to direct traffic.
there you go.
Perfect. That makes
I know.
You might have to get all out here.
Did y'all hear that, some grocery store chain bought that property out there where Babcock was at?
On the,
North side, yeah.
you don't know which one it is?
I didn't realize we
Find
was
out,
that
but nobody
crazy.
can know anything about it.
Hey Truman, Jeremy knows, text him, cause he couldn't tell me last week, but he said he knows, so.
Well, what is it?
I don't know what it is. Who knows?
Is it a Publix? I mean,
No, nothing that big.
Something where the milk used to be.
It was over here, but I don't know, I have no idea,
well,
but I know you
I
know.
told you.
So you had to open the
Publix
real
only builds
wide.
on 4.
But yeah, they don't,
Oh, man.
I think
We split some of
Sunset
it.
has now been approved for 5,000 homes.
Hey.
Old company.
you need to annex that.
I'll do
I see that on our, goals. I know you did.
The north side.
Did you bring up chickens again?
I put strict in my district.
Did you bring up
Everything
chickens
on the
again?
south side.
I'll tell you right now, y'all were stupid,
I'm just playing with you.
y'all were stupid for turning that
Oh,
down.
there she goes.
Snakes will come in and
They
it's
will
so
not.
bad as the chicken things.
Doug's never gonna let
I
me,
thought I was gonna get it.
Doug's
No,
never gonna let me
once
let
you
that
brought
happen.
up that if my dog killed a chicken, he'd be a hazardous animal.
No, it wouldn't.
Forget it.
It's hazardous.
That's right.
Laura's had those
You good? I'm
one
good.
thing,
I'm
the
good.
first
Thank
snake
you.
out there.
Cynthia, you want some on that?
It's a tab season.
Rose, yes?
Thank
That's
you.
right.
Tab's a chicken killer.
You wanna go ahead, Jessica? Did you get it sandwich?
I'm good.
Oh, yeah. You want half mine?
No, I got one.
I'd save you.
I'm good, thank you. I've been sick for about 2 months, you don't want to eat after me.
I just can't get rid of it. You can't get rid of it. I know.
I'll take a few more.
Why don't you go ahead? We can listen. Wow.
I hear. Oh, he's gone.
No, he didn't go.
Paul.
I heard it when everybody got it.
I think a few more.
That's real good.
That's real good.
My chips. That's real good. And I got a bunch of crumbs over
I'll
here.
make another copy of this, but I'm gonna be abstaining from it.
Or I can take a picture.
What's this old man?
I'll make another copy of this.
My witness.
Oh,
Maybe he brought us something sweet.
did he run into that? He brought me a,
Oh, I didn't know y'all were ordering sandwiches.
thank you.
Well, break it out,
Delivery
lady.
man. All right, go ahead.
Yeah. He did it up there.
Did he run into that for real or was he kidding? Did you see if he ran right into it?
Sanders, that name don't ring a bell.
Yeah, that's good.
You always gotta start out with what?
I don't know.
Oh,
Oh,
is what?
Natural. We also had a motorcycle accident with injuries on Gary Green. GSP is keen on that. Driver can ill to degrade.
Oh, no.
We have another, probably not natural, somewhere else. We have a situation on the farm.
So that will be the beginning
Okay,
of
all of that,
the
that's
Dunson
why I
hearing.
got up, all of that.
So
You
you don't have to outline titles and bold or underline cap, so you're basically
What is the state?
follow that meeting order and then go through that and walk Michelle through the
Whenever
process.
it's positive.
Does that make sense? And I'll give you all of that.
Give some presentation. But I'm stopping at the top.
Do I, go down to the podium?
Which golf tournament?
All right, thank you.
Michelle, and then there'll be a form again.
Okay.
Jessica, what's the state doing up on McIntosh in 1941?
But it's actually us. We have a road
Deborah told me to ask you, is that the one?
All the orange barrels? Yeah. A lot of people ask me about that. I tell them, I don't know what the hell that's. That's state. But I was thinking of road.
Okay.
Ready?
Go.
You ready?
You good, Doug?
All right.
Recording in progress.
Oh, thank you. We'll move on to staff goal number 3, addressing substandard properties and blight. I think this has been on y'all's list for the last 14 years, since 2011. So the first thing that we suggested that we needed to do is abate the nuisance of 15 residential structures, 5 commercial structures through either demolition, rehab, condemnation, private sale, or other. This is sort of a change from what we have been doing. We have been knocking out about 50 a year, either in rehab or demo. If y'all remember back when this started in 2011, almost everything was demolition. Because our housing has gotten better, we don't have to do as many demolitions. There are chances to rehab properties, which is a very good thing because we need housing. So as of July 1, we have completed 24 residential abatements, 10 have been demolished and 14 have been rehabbed. We've done 3 commercial abatements, 1 demolition and 2 rehabs, and then 4 properties are currently pending demolition. So we have blown that out of the water with the exception of getting 5 commercial done, but we will get that done before the end of the year. We also were tasked this year through y'all with doing some district cleanups. Y'all didn't say exactly those words, but the more we talked about it, the more we talked about general cleanliness, and almost everybody had a situation in their district that they wanted addressed. So we are performing 6 neighborhood district cleanups this year. We have completed District 6 and 2. During those 2 cleanups, we've had 186 volunteers, collected over 7,500 pounds of garbage, and had 186 tires recycled. So thank goodness we got our tire recycling grants. We're not paying $3 a tire for that. We still have 4 cleanups to go. July 26th is actually in Commissioner Wright's district, and that is Saturday. So we will be out starting at City Park and trying to get as much of District 4 cleaned as we can. September 20th is in District 5, October 25th is in District 1, and November 15th is in District 3. So we actually have divided them up amongst departments. So we have at least 2 departments on each one that's sort of in charge of that particular day, so they can help bring out their trucks and all of their stuff. We are encouraging citizens to come join us. We have sign-up links for it. We encourage you to come join us. We also will ask you ahead of time, is there a particular area that you are concerned about if it's something we don't know about yet? Kelsey is sending those emails with maps, so if you have one, Commissioner Wright, I think for now, let us know if there's a particular area that we don't already have. A lot of times code is out, and so they know, but we certainly want to hear from y'all if there's something in particular that you want us to address during those cleanups. And then after that, because we do feel like we're going out and doing a pretty big service for that community, and we're also working with big community partners. I know Commissioner Ward's husband is probably ready for these to end, but he always wanted to partner with us, so here we are, and they have been everyone doing way more than expected. They can do more of the private property stuff, and so they have helped tremendously with those that are elderly or disabled and can't do their own. And so we look for those properties as well to be able to give to community partners. So if you know of anyone that wants to participate with a big organization, we can certainly put them on something like that and get that done as well. After that, though, we want to keep it maintained, and we have done a little bit stricter enforcement because we feel like we've given them the opportunity to participate with us. And so we want to make sure that those properties stay in compliance. After the District 2 cleanup, there were not compliance issues. Unfortunately, District 6 didn't do as well. 18 warnings were issued or cases were opened from May 8th to June 27th, but that seems to be sort of changing as we go because they are still being monitored. And then lastly, we realized if we're going to continue to address substandard properties and blight and put such a huge emphasis on cleanliness of the city, which I think is important, then we need to look at code enforcement. We have a 14.5 square mile city. We have 83 sworn officers for that, and we have 4 code enforcement officers. So if we're going to prioritize that as much as we have, we need to figure out how we get PD involved, first of all, and I know Chief Strickland is huge on that, so that'll be a big change very soon. But then also, what do we need to do from a staffing perspective, particular for code enforcement? We have 2 animal control officers that were recently moved right before Chad left that January into his department with code enforcement. And so what Michelle has done over the last year and a half is actually cross-train them. So right now you really have 6 enforcement officers. They all know animal control and they all know code enforcement. Now, of course, the 2 that have concentrated on animal control for a year and a half are more proficient there and they're still learning code, and the 4 that did code are more proficient there and are learning animal control. But we were able to promote Ken Intrican, I don't even know it's a promotion now, but to code enforcement officer, so he's from animal control, and then Jordan Andrews from the county worked animal control there. So you really have a good combination of a lot of people that know both of those things. We've also been able to have a supervisor that can sort of help oversee what they do. And so that's a huge deal as well, to be able to have her sort of lead what they need to be doing, making sure that cases are being followed up on. And so that has been excellent for us to be able to divide them in zones. They're the same way, 1, 2, 3, and 4. We have 2 in particular zones based on need, and then they all sort of handle zone 5 because it's right here. It's just the central business district downtown. They are also working on standard operating procedures so that there's more consistency and efficiency. We realized in trying to cross-train, some of them did things differently, and some people did this particular thing better than this particular thing, and so we want to make it where it's more efficient, where you can easily come in as a code enforcement officer, have guidelines on what to do and what is expected. And then lastly, we have in our budget this year, new software to assist them. Right now, they really don't have software. It's mostly manual that they're plugging in just sort of a database, but they have software options where they can put in that they went to this address, issued a warning. It will automatically populate in 5 days because most of our warnings give 5 days, and it will issue the citation. They can go out to the address if it's not in compliance. They check that, it issues the citation, gives them follow-up reminders from there. So I think that they've done a really good job in even just 6 months to look at that and get that addressed, and I'm very excited to see how they go moving forward. All right. Staff goal number 4, another one that we've sort of been really big on, we sort of change the name every once in a while, but is to enhance community outreach. I tell our new employees every month when they start that if we did not have citizens here, you would not need a job. I think I figured out 2 exceptions, which is probably water and probably fire, because I would assume it would be farmland and they would need water, and then if there was a fire, they would need fire. Other than that, they really wouldn't need many of us. So we need to be here for what our community needs. And one thing that we realized last year is that in going through sort of the Spring Hill area or the Park District now, one of the most dilapidated structures in that district was what is now the Ann Street PD and Community Center. And so on that's 4-way stop at Ann and Beck. You've got Ann Street Elementary School, you've got Heritage Park Apartments, you have Raymond Head Park, and then you had our dilapidated structure that nobody really had any plan for. And so in talking with the Housing Authority and some of you all that were around when it was purchased, we realized either we needed to do something with it or get rid of it. But we also had some crime in that area, and we had some concerns about needing community spaces in that area. So instead, I'm super pleased, and I feel like this is one of my biggest accomplishments as city manager, is opening that precinct. It is incredible. If you have not been by there, please go see it. They did a phenomenal job with the community center. You would have no idea that it's a police station except for Officer Golden sitting up there. And then with the field investigations team unit in the basement, it is still creates a safety mechanism for that area as well. And so we were able to have the grand opening on April 17th. They hosted a lot of the PD youth camp there the week that they had that as well. And then I hope you will join us for the back to school bash on Thursday. From 5 to 7, it's at Raymond Head Park, but we will have that open as well so the community can come see it. The other thing that we wanted to use it for was a youth mentor program. And so it is currently open to the public. Kids ages 8 through 12 are able to come and register. Their parents have to register them, but then they're able to come in the afternoons and just hang out. It is not a formalized program at this point because we wanted this to be something where they were more familiar and comfortable with the police officers. So if they know that those particular hours somebody's going to be there. If they want to go out and play basketball, they go out and play basketball. If they want to sit there and play video games with them, they sit there and play video games. So we're excited. I think we have 18 registered now. And they, like I said, they don't have to come every day. It's not a formalized program. It's just that their parents said, yes, they can be there at these particular times. We have different badges and forms and all that kind of stuff. So we feel pretty comfortable, although it is still sort of a pilot program because it's newer. And in talking with other cities, there's not many other people that are doing anything like this. So I'm very excited about it. And then also we're still working with Ann Street Elementary on partnerships to have maybe some more formalized tutoring and offerings that they can use the community center for after hours. We just really want to give those kids that don't have a place to go in between school and home with an adult something to do with an adult. So that's why we want them to encourage them to come there and still have a great time, but also have some kind of supervision so they don't make bad choices. I've actually met with the Ann Street Elementary School principal earlier this spring, maybe even winter, to ask for a partnership with the kids to help the city decide what to do with Raymond Head Park. Right now it's really not used as a park, it's really used more as a hangout at the pavilion. Although it made me really happy a couple weeks ago to drive by and see a bunch of kids playing basketball. So it was nice to see kids back in the park, but I really want to know, what do they want? That could be a great opportunity for a splash pad or something over there, but I'd really like to hear from the kids that live there. The principal did change to Ann Street, so I'm gonna let them get into the school year a little bit, and I'm gonna reach out to the new principal, ask her to get me some kids together. Lieutenant Trammell is sort of our off-duty officer at Heritage and knows a lot of those kids, so he already had given me some names for people there that he thought would be happy to participate. And we really want to design a park in their neighborhood that they want. So that will sort of be next on the list for that area at Ann Street. Research city pool and provide recommendations. I'm so happy to say that y'all have come to an agreement, I think a unanimous consensus, that city pool, while it was great while it was there, and I had many summer mornings swimming with the Griffin Gators and Griffin swim team even before the Griffin Gators, it is time that needs to be somewhere else. We want something in the city, but that particular area with the development going on right by the hospital is probably not the best place, and it would actually be more cost effective to build from scratch than it would to try and demo, rehab, and replace that pool. So we are going to move forward with a concept of a pavilion and bathroom area. It's a good distance, about the furthest distance from the clubhouse for golfers, and so it's a good stop for bathrooms for them. And then we will figure out additional places that we've actually been in talks with the county for quite some time. About a year ago, Ms. Trammell, myself, Ms. Eller met with Dr. Ledbetter, Ms. Dye, and Mr. Enberger about splash pads throughout the city and county. They asked what our thoughts were on partnerships, which we were perfectly amenable to, so that we could bring a recommendation to you all. But we needed something formal. They haven't had an opportunity to give that to us yet, but in my opinion, I think it would be beneficial for us to partner with the county, since they are in the Parks and Recreation avenue and receive lost money for that, for us to see sort of what their proposal is and then make determinations from there. If they don't bring us one, then we'll handle it ourselves and we'll deal with it from that perspective. But we'll see what we get from them, hopefully in the very near future. The fourth goal under enhancing community outreach is to translate all of our planning and development forms into Spanish. Before Ms. Morales left us, she was able to get 80% of that done. That's a huge undertaking. As I think you all know, a lot of our contractors are Spanish-speaking natives, and so it's nice for them to feel more comfortable to come in and have those forms. So we're glad that we got a lot of that done. A lot of people say, well, just use ChatGPT. Well, that would be great, but sometimes different dialects are not quite right. And so it's a good starting point, and we can do that to finish out the forms, but we will still need somebody that actually speaks native Spanish to look at them and make sure we don't have any inconsistencies or anything like that in there. So we will continue that and get that done by the end of the year. And then lastly, for enhancing community outreach, we wanted to fund a downtown playground through grants. Last year we applied for the T-Mobile grant and did not receive it. This year we reapplied for that grant. And then also applied for a Rotary grant because they like to find a community project, each Rotary Club, to do in their community. And I'm happy to say, and I've announced this to y'all before, that we did receive that $50,000 grant from our local Rotary clubs. We're very excited and thankful for that. We don't have the funds yet, but we have drawings complete. They will look at all of that. We're figuring out naming and that kind of thing. It will be beside the Welcome Center. So if you're going to the Welcome Center this way, on the left side, there's actually a much larger green space than I realized that will be right by the railroad tracks, and so we'll have to talk about fencing for that that purpose. But it is actually a train is going to be the playground, so it will sort of incorporate what sometimes is a pest is our lovely train that is downtown. So I'm very excited about that one as well. We can still receive the T-Mobile grant and just make it bigger and better. We haven't heard back on whether or not we have, but if we do, then great, we'll make it bigger and better. So that's staff goals for this year. Any questions on where we are with those so far? Am I good? Ms. Murray?
We're ready to roll.
Just ready to roll.
Okay. All right. Nextly then is commission objectives. So we, like Mayor said, y'all went first this time, which I think was actually very helpful for us. So helpful, in fact, that we want to continue to do that. And let y'all go first every year and give us about a month after y'all go for us to be able to set our goals. We're trying to figure out timing wise on all of that for this upcoming calendar year. But it's been helpful for us to be able to sort of tailor what we need to do around y'all's priorities. The first one y'all mentioned was the Northside School. What we are asking at this point is to proceed with nuisance. We actually already have an administrative search warrant that was granted in court a couple weeks ago. Ms. Cardin has been in contact with the property owner to let her know that that search warrant was granted. Administrative search warrant is not for criminal purposes. It is just to investigate the interior and exterior of the building because we really don't even know all of the problems there. What we do know from previous historical reports from when the school system owned it is that there is asbestos and there is lead-based paint, but we're not real sure exactly how much that would cost to abate, and so we need to get in and figure all of that out to see what we're really dealing with as far as value of the property and as far as the remedial aspects of the property. Currently the owner is asking $1.2 million for the property. Mr. Stratton has been working with her on a buyer. I know at one point there was interest from this board about potentially purchasing the property. Staff's recommendation at this point is to move forward with nuisance because we just don't have any idea what the cost would be for abatement and rehabilitation, but I would like a consensus from all of you.
Nuisance.
Nuisance.
Nuisance? Okay. All right. The second one is Zone 1 cleanliness, which is, again, while we looked at the landscape maintenance plan in that area, because some of that is our own cleanliness issues as far as right-of-way is concerned. But as of June 30th in that area, we've had 225 warnings issued, 40 citations, 47 special handling pickups, and 178 properties that have come in compliance. Special handling, just for those that don't know, is if there is like a mattress or even an eviction that is put out on the road. It's also the extensive amount of yard waste that does not meet ordinance requirements. So there's been a lot of stuff go on in that area since January. There were some questions about whether or not the sweepers run in that area. So Mr. Kenway, our new stormwater director, made sure we have our GPS systems on the streets, sweepers, that they are running in that area on a consistent basis, which they are. We did realize that there are a few different areas that are that the kudzu has overgrown in the right-of-way and onto the street, and the street sweepers cannot sweep in that area. It'll break the rotation of the actual sweeper. So they've made note of that to turn that over to Public Works to address as they can to get that cut back so they can run in that area, because I think that is part of the problem that we weren't really understanding. Just to note as well, of the 39 nuisance properties that we've already discussed in staff goals, 23 of those are in Zone 1. And there was also a question, I know Ms. Rose in particular had some concerns about streetlights in certain areas. There are 19 spaces that need new lights. 3 need LED replacements, and when we put in new lights, they're automatically LED. We don't go back to the old stuff. And then 1 has too much vegetation on it, so the vegetation on that needs to be trimmed. Another request was for a Sun City annexation, which we do not believe as staff that is feasible yet. That's a long ways away, and we got a lot to worry about in our 14.5 square miles as it is, so that is not something that we have prioritized at this time. But Waterford is already in our area, and so we need to look at that as well. I will tell you that Code was a little taken aback by this one because they had worked very hard at the end of last year in Waterford. And so when they went back, they did still realize that there are cases that needed to be handled, which there were 18. 17 of them have been closed, so they are back in compliance. I think that's going to be just an ongoing thing with some turnover that they have out there with the rental properties. 1 is an absentee landlord that they cannot find, and so they're still trying to figure out how to deal with that. On the Waterford and Ellis intersection traffic concern, several months ago, Ms. Eller ordered the beacons that will be able to alert the person stopped on Crystal Brook of oncoming traffic on Ellis, and they have been backordered and backordered and backordered, and so the last update was they will be here in 5 weeks. So they're coming, they say.
God, fingers crossed.
All right, another concern was the county portion of North Hill Street sidewalk. So I'm very excited that the county has received a $3 million grant for their Safe to Schools sidewalk acquisition, and they will be using this project as a match, so that's a guarantee that they will get it done. The construction drawings are done, and the county is currently in the process of acquiring right-of-way, so we should see that happening hopefully in the very near future. Next was Public Development.
Go to the next one. Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry?
We got it.
We got it.
Oh, I didn't go next. I'm sorry. The Public Development. Mr. Stratton has a lot of contacts and is very good at finding people that are interested in Griffin, and so he is currently working with 5 different developers that have cited over 120 Publixes, which I don't know if that's how you make that plural or not. But they are very interested in here. They have some particular locations that they are most interested in, which we don't want to share at this time. So he's having to sort of work through that, but they have a lot of interest in being near their competitors, I will say, as most people do. And so he is working with different current landowners and then the developers to see if he can find a match that will get us a Publix. Commuter rail, that is not really something the city alone can do, but it is our belief that we need to continue to partner with the I-75 Central Corridor Coalition. They have a big undertaking from Macon to Atlanta. And so that is something that they have worked on pretty continuously. Y'all have budgeted for that, those dues to be paid. Mayor sits on that coalition, so that is something that we need to make sure we continue to do so that we have eyes and ears on what may be coming for Griffin. State Route 155 relocation, that is something that goes through the county because of how the county road is currently set. That concept plan, unfortunately, is still with GDOT. We actually have a Griffin Spalding Area Transportation Committee meeting tomorrow. And so I will ask Harland, our district representative, I would like for him to get that on the actual tracker. I think construction says 2029, but I think it would be helpful for he and the rest of them to have it on their list.
And they've got that on the schedule for update tomorrow.
Oh, good.
Is the concept plan updated? I remember seeing an older one for a map.
We have had to send it back and forth a few times based on their comments. I don't even know, I'd have to figure out what the last one is, but yeah, it's been updated a few times.
Okay.
Oh, they're most concerned on that South McDonough or North McDonough of the dips in that road. It changes elevation pretty good, so they're having to figure out how much right of way they have to acquire to be able to level that out better. That was some of the biggest concerns, but it's still better than our planter being hit every other day. So we'll do whatever we can to get that relocated. All right, road patching from utility work, we've already talked about that, so you can refer back to staff goal number 2B if you want to see more of that, especially, and as well the sidewalk connectivity, talking about that in staff goal 2D. Y'all asked us to look at grant money, and I think we've done an excellent job of that this year. We received the tire recycling grants. We're not having to pay for the tires that we're finding in the right of way as of yet. We received the downtown playground grant. We have received 10 hazard mitigation grants from GEMA and have 30 pending GEMA approval. The 10 we already have is about $3 million worth of grants. And then also we have passed the first phase of the congressional directed spending request with Senator Warnock's office asking for help with our much needed sewer improvements, as you just heard. And so we actually Brandon did a great job working with his aide on that. And so she thinks we have a very good shot at receiving at least $2 million from his congressionally directed spending. Got it this time. Okay. Next, Spring Hill redevelopment, so just by the park area. A lot of that we purchased a long time ago, or we did through nuisance abatement. That's sort of the Westbrook, Scales, English, Booker area, Pimento as well. The Land Bank Authority and Housing Authority own a lot of that property, especially on the horseshoe of Westbrook and Scales. They understand that they are holding those properties for redevelopment. 818 Scales will be in nuisance court this fall. Yes, I know. That's in the big estate problem. And then there's just a few more that are occupied. We're saving those to last. Yes, ma'am.
If I'm mistaken, I'm not mistaken. Didn't the land bank sell? Was it land bank? That might not have been the land bank. Somebody sold one of the properties that they had acquired over there.
I believe there's been 2 sold on that corner closest to Ann Street. Is that Scales or Westbrook?
At the 4-way stop?
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about the golf course?
No. I'm gonna have to pull it up, but
It's between Park Street, the one going to the park, and then going east.
Across the street from Penny's house?
Mm-mm.
Across from the Leaks house?
The 4-way stop where Mr. J used to live, Reed.
Okay.
I don't know. I'll have to, but most everything there is either Land Bank or Housing Authority, and they have not sold anything that they have acquired. But there are 2 at the end that are still occupied.
Am I mistaken? They the last meeting
Did they?
looked like they said something had sold.
2 properties, I believe, I'm pulling this from my email, but I know 817 Ray and 314 North 14th just recently had a closing for Land Bank, but they have to get with us before they sell anything to confirm whether or not we have any liens. And those
Might not have been the land bank. It might have been. This is something that came up at the housing authority meeting.
I hope not, because we actually do have confirmation from Kim that she knows those are to be held.
Before the land bank made their priority list, we actually met with Kim to say, these are the ones that are banked here, we're all keeping these, and that was a discussion that me and
So it might have been one of the houses that somebody else owned that they.
Maybe.
It could have been, but I remember saying something about something had sold.
I think there was a tract of land at 824 Beck Street.
Beck Street.
819 Beck is an ongoing issue. We have that one on our nuisance list, but it is a
Okay. Just
land bank, or not land bank, but housing authority related. We're waiting on the house.
Now I was asking because it was my understanding of originally that everything that the land bank had was being basically banked so that it could be part of the development.
Well, so skip down North Hill Street Development. Next one is Land Bank Authority plan for owned property. So what has finally occurred with Mr. Blocker coming in full time is he has been able to sort of tell them these are, because I mean, yes, we created the land bank with the county, so technically we should say this is what we want you to bank, but they have an independent board, and so that's up to them. So he discussed with them several different times, this is what the city and county wants you to keep, or the housing authority wants you to keep banked, so that they can wait until they're ready to do redevelopment or whatever it is they need for that property. He has done that. They gave him a priority list for properties that they wanted to have the right of redemption foreclosed. So the first sort of step in him getting, because they also need to get rid of property. The land bank property is just, its inventory is just way too big. And so they're prioritizing properties that already have a contract on it for them to foreclose the right of redemption to be able to get it sold. So they gave him that list as well. And then closer to being sold are 44 properties that already had contracts. So those properties are sort of going as quickly as the closing attorneys can, and they've actually been working with Mr. Blocker so that he can actually do the right of redemption on his own and not have to wait on them. They will still have to do closing for title and insurance purposes, but actual right of redemption, from my understanding, they're going to help him with. We'll see. They also are working on drafting new forms and SOPs because they really didn't have what they needed. And then they have chosen their priority area as Experiment Street. I'm not sure if that means they want to continue to acquire property in that area or if they want to hold property in that area for redevelopment. But that will be interesting to see how that progresses as well. And then lastly, he specifically asked me to mention to you all that he has been sending a survey, I think once a week on Monday, because he wants your feedback on what you want from the land bank and how you see that functioning. So if you have not yet done that, please fill out that survey for him. I think that will be very helpful, and he has done an amazing job since he's been here on getting that organization actually functioning. So I'm glad he's here, and I want to help him however we can. Back to the North Hill Street redevelopment plan, there's actually 2 that y'all have talked about, and we haven't really done anything with them yet, so we need to set a time, either at a workshop upcoming. Y'all need to decide if you want to prioritize one, but one is the North Hill Street redevelopment plan that we need to take off the shelf. The other one is the TAD 2 redevelopment plan. So I just we need to know what we want to do. TAD 2 is a much larger area, and it's really more the West Griffin LCI area. So it's going to encompass sort of North Expressway from Taylor and sort of goes even south of that, all the way over to Experiment Street, and a little beyond that is the West Griffin LCI. So if we want to look at that, you have TAD 2 that expands all that, so you actually have funds now for that one. So we need to, my suggestion would be to do that one first, just because we know we have funds that you haven't touched, and you have plenty of that from, you still have to make bond payments from the Kroger bonds, but you have the ability to do that, especially on what TAD 2 is making now, to be able to fund some pretty big projects. But we need to look at that, pull that out, and figure out what we want to do. But y'all just, depending on what the pleasure of the board on your priority, we just need to decide. Okay, next is everyone's favorite, the chicken ordinance. That was drafted, that was redrafted, that was looked at from all different aspects, and so in March we brought that back to you, you voted, and that did fail the vote at the commission meeting in March. The speeding and racing cars on the thoroughfares, the traffic unit has issued 577 speeding citations from January 1st through July 1. Those encompass sort of your major, your state highways that run through, so 155, 16, and 362. It also included Maple College and Broadway. So they tried to sort of spread out as much as they could, but also keep those big thoroughfares from speeders.
Trump has those kind of voters.
Do we, Jessica, in that,
Can't take him.
in that actual area, or what you just talked about on the objective,
Phone on silent.
what are we doing for the cars that are backfiring? The young people rev them up to do, I mean, like, they make them do that on purpose. Do we enforce that, or?
What law are they breaking?
I don't know.
There
I'm just curious.
is a uniform rule of the road in chapter 40 that is a muffler. If you mess with your muffler, I think maybe in my whole time in court we had one. It's very hard to prove and enforce. They're very hard to catch because we don't allow pursuits in the city. So they try, and if there's an issue, I mean, they'll tell them you remove that or fix it or whatever, but they really, I don't know, Kelsey.
Didn't we just talk about doing something for Jake breaks?
Yes, we're drafting a Jake break ordinance.
So will that be in one particular area or just inside the city limits?
No, we would put them at city limits to say you cannot use them in the city.
I've just had a few citizens just ask.
Oh, it's horrible. It's my pet peeve.
Yeah, if we have plans, or is there anything we can do? I don't know. I just don't have.
Let's look at that statute and we'll check it, but it's difficult, but we'll check into it. I agree.
Thank
I hate
you.
it.
I know.
Power outages on Brook Circle.
Yeah, that's me.
Well, we trimmed the trees. And so we haven't had any issues, which Jennifer said Rusty was gonna kill me when I said this, since February 12th.
Very good.
So that's really, I mean, that's the problem. I will tell you that we got some complaints from the residents in Brook Circle that we trimmed the trees. You just sort of one or the other at that point. But for the most part, we haven't got any complaints from them about power outages, so a win there. Homeless encampments was also mentioned. We did do a huge cleanup in front of UGA Griffin. On that bridge, we were able to really take back a lot of the brush and stuff as well. So much so that Dr. Dean, who's the provost at the campus, said, "Whoa, y'all did so much cleaning up. We got to come in and do some cleaning up. We didn't know that some of that we needed
The
to
bridge that was closed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, why are we cleaning it up?
It was a big homeless encampment where they had dumped a bunch of stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Huge.
Is there any possibility that might ever be opened back up?
Footbridge.
That is an area that people are looking at as far as pedestrian connectivity and sort of pathways, but I don't think for vehicular traffic.
No, there's no road.
Did they clean,
For expressway,
Lower Bleecker
that's
yet?
all been taken up.
That's in the county.
I mean, did they, do you know, have they been over
They
there?
have not.
Okay. All right, keep rolling.
They are currently working on an area that I did not know existed behind Little Caesars, where we're also having some issues back there. We actually had a
They had
shooting.
on the other side over there in the old Spalding Ford, on that side, they had a homeless encampment.
On where? Bless you.
The road next to Waffle House.
Oh.
It's
Oh,
an area,
Lord.
it's an area behind there.
Back where the old theater used to be, drive-in theater, that you don't remember.
I was gonna say, I don't know that one.
You weren't even born.
Might have been in that car.
We have also worked on that throughout downtown as well. Our lieutenants and our police department have a better understanding of our incommoding ordinance, and so they have been able to enforce that. And then also try and help. What can we do? Where do you need to go? How can we help? And so that's been helpful, although it's a constant work in progress. The next thing discussed was missed and inconsistent garbage service. We were almost ready to sign on the dotted line for a routing software system that once Ms. Cardin, and I don't even know that it got to Mr. Whalen, I think she might have stopped it, because they were going to sell all of our information to anywhere in the world, and we did not think that was a good idea. And they were sort of the only one that had that particular system, but thankfully what we have learned is that our current Samsara GPS system has the ability to do something very similar without having to add more software for IT to deal with. And so we've sort of started over and are looking at that now to figure out how we can have a better mapping and verification ability so that we know, hey, this was picked up at this particular time, or we were there at this particular time and your can wasn't out. We get that unfortunate problem a lot, but we can't prove that. Also, we will be bringing back to you the amendments to the solid waste ordinance. I asked if we could sort of hold off on yard waste, recycling, and solid waste all at the same time, because that's all going to impact each other potentially. So we have that scheduled for either August, September workshop, depends on Ms. Cardin's schedule and what other fires come up. And then commercial audit has been completed. What dumpsters are where, what services are they receiving, and what services are they being billed for? We had a lot of inconsistencies. So we're actually having to update inventory in our new ViewWorks software, which is our new inventory software, and get it correct so that we can get the inventory correct, so then we can correct the billing and who needs to be paying for what, so we can make sure that our customers are getting what they're paying for and we are getting what we are providing as well. Archway, we are graduating from Archway and becoming a connected, resilient community. Mayor, I was going to let you add on if you wanted to on that note.
So they're graduating the Archway, there'll be 3 projects that we as a community will take on, and so we're discussing different options. One is community image, one is workforce development and transitioning, and I'm trying to remember what the
third one is sort of how we are going to continue Archway without Archway.
Yep, so how to continue facilitating intergovernmental collaboration, which seems to be, we talk about it, but yet we struggle. So those are the 3 areas that we will. Our July meeting was canceled, so we'll, I'm sure, be discussing it the first Wednesday of August.
Yeah.
So all of our little committees and things will no longer be functioning. And
okay, so the connected resilient community, exactly what is that? How does it work? Is it connected with UGA or?
through University of Georgia, Carl Vinson Institute, and then we will work on 3, what do they call those?
I think they call them projects.
Projects, but 3,
They call these weird words.
they have a different word, but 3 projects for us to focus on. As a community.
Philanthropies or something like that?
Well-
Will we have a person like that's
No,
So
so we won't have an Archway professional
Yeah.
anymore. I think she's actually already gone.
Brittany, unless she got promoted again, will possibly be our point
So
of contact.
we'll have sort of a point of contact for this particular program, but they don't, and the Feigning Institute is going to help with the sort of, what the professional did, which is really just sort of, I shouldn't say mediate, but host the meetings. Facilitate, thank you. The meetings, but they're sort of trying to teach us and us all decide what's the best way for us to do it without any involvement from anybody else.
And we have enough leftover funds from the Archway that will roll into it, so there will be no cost for us. This is more of we appreciate y'all's hard work and commitment. Let's move forward and roll and go.
Yes, we have asked, I asked a couple meetings ago to please provide us with some kind of talking points about that, because I'm not familiar with it, and so I hope in August they'll have something for us to be able to share a little more extensively, so y'all know where we're headed.
The communities will be recognized at the completion of each project. Upon completion of all 3 projects, the community will receive the CRC designation.
Right.
Yes.
And
So
so the one on communication is we're really looking at how do we tell our story. We're going to tie it in with the the 250th, not bicentennial or something.
Oh, yeah.
It's so the country's 250th birthday, and how do we celebrate our history, our future, and tell our story about Griffin Spalding County school system.
Interesting.
This is my story.
Well, it's your story. Yes,
This is
your
my
story.
song.
This is your song. This is your story.
Praise my Savior.
Yes, because when Archway comes down from Athens and they give us all the things that we have done as an Archway community, they are shocked that there's ever a question that Archway has been helpful, or by either elected officials or citizens. But I think that has shown them that we have not explained it well or told our story well, and so they think that we need help in learning how to do that.
We also will still continue to have direct access to the higher education in terms of project development and things like that.
So we'll see what happens next. Okay, yard waste. So we held what I thought was one of the most productive meetings with Waste, which is the company that bought out, Best Way that bought out, I don't remember who it was, Dependable. And so we are on our 3rd contract assignment, which I've asked Ms. Cardin to actually just redo a contract at this point. I'm not sure that Waste and Dependable are even remotely similar in what they offer. And we learned that in the meeting because in our contract back in 2013 that y'all did, we asked for driver routing software so we could prove where they had been. And Dependable, which is just Little Pike County, did not have that ability. But Waste does. We didn't know that until this meeting. We said, well, give us access. Oh, yeah, we can do that. We have tons of cities that have access to our driver cams. So now, when somebody says they didn't come by my house today, we can say they did. And show that either the size was too big, or that there was some other issue, it went out, or it wasn't your week. But with that also, their routes are awful. And we were pretty point blank about that. And they agreed. They have a new operations manager, and he even admitted he had no idea what our routes were. He said, I don't know what odd and even means. I said, I don't either. And so try to explain that to a citizen. It doesn't make any sense. And so they see the truck on Hill Street, it picks up the west side of Hill Street and not the east side of Hill Street. What sense does that make? Just do our route. And if that doesn't work, then reroute it some kind of way where people know when you're coming and they see that truck that they will be collected that day and not on the even or odd or whatever the other mess is. So they are going to work on rerouting our system because they can't even tell us what the routes are. So I thought that was a huge improvement. And Sue Stubbs in our solid waste department currently has access to the driver cam. She's sort of playing with it now to see who else might need that. I'm sure Mr. Ennis will. I may ask for it as well because we get a lot of complaints about yard waste. and I am ready to get that handled once and for all.
Are the
So-
rules or the, I guess the standards gonna stay the same, like pile size?
Yeah, so they
what's
gave us
in
sort of
there?
their flyer that they give. They are what we currently have in our ordinance, so they would stay the same. We can, of course, address that in contract. I'm not sure that the rules are really unreasonable. They have a lot of cities that have weekly yard waste, but that's expensive. Noonan is one of those. They use waste. They have weekly yard waste. They get no complaints. So, you know, we'd sort of have to play with that as far as contractual language and what we wanted. But I think the rules are reasonable for what we have outside of leaf season, but then that becomes more of an on-demand service, and then you're going to have to pay a lot more for that. They sort of work with us already. They know the leaf season is big. They bring in a 5th truck. So they've sort of already handled that on their end because they know they can't meet that demand. But also, we had to change our ordinance to have them either bagged or you still only get the size. So if you put out more than that, it'll be a couple weeks before we get it picked up. So I think they're pretty reasonable, but we can look at that and see if there's anything else that y'all want to change when we bring that amendment back.
In the
We
meeting,
talked about that being an education factor as
Okay.
well,
Yeah.
because like with the leaves, people are putting piles of twigs and then putting the leaves on
Right.
top, which wrecks the waste machines that actually
Right.
can suck it up. So it can take them twice as long if they know that people aren't gonna be complying. They have to only use like the grabber, and that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, if, on the north side, and I think we should have some kind of understanding, it's very rare that they have to pick up anything. Very rare. And but everybody's still paying the cost for yard waste. So when they get a call to pick up yard waste on the north side, it shouldn't be that big of a problem, whatever it is, because everybody else already paid for it. So that's something we need to be looked at, because I never put out yard waste. I haven't seen anybody else except for Tyrone to put out yard waste on Palace Street, period. But he was putting out somebody else's stuff. But like I said, and I very, very seldom see a truck go through my neighborhood, like on the day, I guess, when they're supposed to be picking up, because they know they don't have to. You know, it's not there. So
Yeah,
that's something.
We'll check that.
going back to yard waste, in the meeting, did they mention, or was this even discussed, a particular pile that may not be up to standard, but they don't get it? I mean, I get a lot of calls where the citizen wasn't notified of why they didn't get it.
So that's on us.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
sort of, they have to tell us that. So
Okay.
they're supposed to be notifying us if it's not in compliance. And I think contractually we need to clear that up. So that their drivers can say with their little button, hey, this is out of compliance. Code goes then and says, you're not in compliance, we issue a letter. That even came up as well as far as special handling. It becomes a special handling, which Amwaste does for us as well. But right now, the minimum fee for special handling is $35, which is pretty good. But if it's more than truckload full of whatever that may be, it's going to increase based on tonnage at that point. And it's sort of an estimate from our solid waste people at that point. But we receive $5 for that service. That we're not remotely close to covering our costs. We've already given them a heads up. We will be looking at that as well. So that whole process needs to be addressed, yes.
Okay, just thank you for that, thank
But
you.
also address, the discussion of common sense in regards to if there's a large pile, I mean, should they go ahead and at least pick up a 4x4x8 portion of that so that they can rake it back into a pile for the next round 2 weeks later?
They have, what are you saying, they have 5 trucks? Are you saying?
They have 4 normally, but they bring in a 5th during leaf season.
During the
Fall.
Mm-hmm. When the solid waste department did it, how many,
I don't know, I'd have to.
is it more efficient and less cost effective to do it? Have we figured that out? For them to do it than to try to do it in-house?
Yes.
Yes, currently now with this new contract negotiation, depending on what they come back with as price. But the way that solid waste equipment is expensive and it breaks a lot, we have learned. So that's a huge factor that we would have to consider. Employees, yeah, the staffing turnover for that, being able to drive those particular trucks. I mean, we'd have to take all that into consideration, but it is something we talk about consistently. There's a few that did it and are like, bring it back. I think the biggest concern, and I point blank told Amways this, it is really disheartening to get call after call after call that we really can't help them with, and we can't even tell them what happened because we've contracted that service out. And so we get the call, we get all the yelling, we get all the complaints, and we call them and they fix it. But I told him, I said, that's an on-demand service. We're not paying for that. We're paying for bi-weekly yard waste service. So if you want to do it on demand, and we'll just let you know when somebody calls, that's a different contract. Right now, you're supposed to pick it up once every 2 weeks at every house in the city. If you can't make that work, then adjust it. So we were pretty clear with them, I felt like, in that meeting.
But that's where if the pile's too big, they should at least pick up, in my opinion, a 4x4x8 worth of
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
of that, so then the person can consolidate what's they
Well,
leave.
Yes,
And,
I mean,
and then come back 2 weeks later.
I will say, my only, just from a code enforcement perspective, with that person being in court when they are oversized piles, part of the enforcement arm to make sure that they are complying with the requirement that Amways has is that they can be cited by code enforcement. And then that keeps them from doing those very large piles. I know it's a very different circumstance though if it wasn't picked up and it wasn't in compliance when it was put out, and then it piles up after that. That's one thing, but we do see a lot of people who brazenly will just put out, an entire truckload of their own landscaping company comes and they put everything out, and they just know if they wait a month, it'll all get picked up.
Yeah. All right, any other yard waste comments? Okay. Downtown medians. So we actually used an Archway student from UGA who just graduated with her landscape design degree to come in and look at the downtown medians and planters and give us some ideas for what they really need to look like, because whatever happened during LCI, I do not know, but it is not right. And so it's got to be corrected. And very ironically, I received an email from a citizen 2 weeks ago saying, hey, I'd really like to sit down with you and talk about your medians and planters. They're not right. And she also is in landscape business. So I asked her to look through the plan and told her I would love to sit down with her. I'm sure it's somewhat of, a potential business opportunity for her, but Ms. Eller and I will sit down with her in the coming weeks and see her thoughts as well. Public Works has already looked into several things from the initial plan that the student did, and so again, those are some financial costs that we don't really have budgeted, but we can look at as we sort of can maybe phase that plan in fall weather. And while we were talking about this, I'll just go ahead and let you know that I did just sign a purchase order for McElroy to come in. We're sick of having the planter hit. We're reconfiguring it. We're just going to pull it back. It just doesn't make any sense to reconfigure it and have it redone is $13,000. Every time it gets hit, it's $4,000-ish, depending. So I just signed that.
Just the angles just aren't quite right.
Correct, but I don't know how I just don't know. So we'll hopefully end that problem. The most recent one that really took it out, they caught the guy, and so we have been paid back for some of them. I'm actually one of the ones that hears it and gets to see it, so I'm out there taking pictures on my phone of the people trying to continue on. This one wasn't going far because it busted 2 of his tires, and he was sort of done. So just to give you a heads up, our in-house was able to repair it as much as it is now, but there is still a loose stone, which is why it's still blocked, but we're done with that. We're just going to reconfigure it and move on. Old County Jail. We have talked about that a little bit. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do from that front, and we will move forward as discussed. We've already talked about the neighborhood cleanups as well as the youth mentor program. Compensation we were able to do last year. Unfortunately, as y'all know, that always seems to be increasing. We monitor that. We do have a spreadsheet that was given to us. We purchased from the company that did our compensation study 2 years ago, so we're able to do that in-house right now with the different calculations that they gave us opportunities to use. And we'll just continue to monitor that and try and keep up with it rather than just having to do big sweeping changes at one time. Y'all did graciously approve a 2% raise again in this budget for performance improvement. That was on everybody's paycheck last Friday, so most everybody is very happy. If you received a score of needs improvement, you are not eligible for a raise. There's a couple other ways that you're not eligible for a raise. If you received a 2, which is meets expectations, you receive 2%. If you received a 3, you receive 2.75%, and if you received a 4, which is exceeds all expectations, you receive 3.5%. So there are that is certainly helping us keep up with our competitors. Health insurance, I know we had some concerns about what was covered and what was not. Ms. Woods was able to negotiate with Meritain, and now we are offering preventative and diagnostic services covered at 100%. There are certain services that those are, so you need to check and make sure that those are what they are, but your typical mammograms and those kind of things would be covered at 100% as of July 1. Wow. I think those as well.
Well, yes, but when you check, make sure they take that insurance.
Yes.
You also make sure that you ask them what the co-pays will be. Because I had a colonoscopy a couple of months ago, and Dr. Barlow's office told me they take this insurance that the city provides, and then I've received a bill for $895. I called them and asked them, I said, what is this? Oh, that's copay. You got the anesthesiologist, you got Dr. Barlow, and you got the facility. Otherwise, it was covered. I'm going, what did it cover, $10? I mean, geez.
Yeah, insurance is very costly. We
It
did look.
It is, and I understand that that's why they went back with Meritain, is to keep the costs low.
We did look at Blue Cross Blue Shield, and we do this every year. So we do have a broker come in and actually do all of this review for us. Going back to Blue Cross Blue Shield would have been about $11 million a year, and we're at 5.6 or 7.
Who do we, are we with?
Meritain. We're self-insured now, so it's a very different kind of process. But we're mainly saying we'll pay for it, and Meritain does that coverage for us.
That would be covered at 100% now.
Yeah, the $890 that he paid is not the case anymore.
It would be.
There's not a copay because it's 100%.
Starting in July.
It started July, this past July 1.
Get that supplement and just live up.
All right, and I know Commissioner Curtis had an issue with the substandard church at 129 Moore Street. It does contain asbestos. They will have to have that abated by August 31st, and they have agreed they want to do it, so they will be doing the abatement, and they're also going to demolish by the end of the year. So that will be taken care of in the next few months. We have talked about some activities for inner city kids, and they're still looking at different areas for potentially a pool or a joint splash pad with the county. I will make sure that we continue to update y'all on what we find there. PD patrolling in neighborhoods. This one's sort of hard to gather, but we have received a lot of positive feedback, some from you all, some just in person, and some on social media saying, hey, I saw an officer in my neighborhood. And we've received several pictures of officers that are getting out with kids and saying they just came by, which is great and which is what we want more of. The citations and arrests are reflecting those needs as well. We don't have, a bunch of arrests from a Sunday morning sitting at a stop sign, running a stop sign, or not stopping completely on the way to church. So I think that's a good indication of that form of policing as well. The speed limit on State Route 155. I know Commissioner Wright asked us to review that. We would have to do a speed zone study every 4 years with our GDOT district engineer. That was actually just done in 2023. When they reviewed it, it actually bumped up to 40 miles per hour where it was 35, and so I don't feel like it would be a good idea to ask them to look at it again. They will review it in 2027, though.
We've also brought up at Transportation Committee in April, or March and April, because there was a lady that was killed at the intersection at Taylor and Hill, about possibly reducing the speed limit on 155 and Georgia and 16 as well.
Yep.
So they're supposed to give us a report back on that tomorrow.
Awesome. Implement the TAD 2 redevelopment plan. We've already talked about that. As I suggested, the West Griffin LCI would probably be the easiest one to pull back out and look at with all of you, because we do have that funding in TAD 2. I think that is just something that this fall we need to look at a workshop. That'll give staff an opportunity to pull it back out and make some recommendations on it and see if there's any updates that are needed, and then bring that to you all to discuss further. And then lastly, Taylor Street Streetscape was mentioned. That is a T-SPLOST project. Unfortunately, we were hoping to really sort of transform Taylor Street, particularly through the downtown, to match the LCI with potentially some brick medians. GDOT has told us no, the center lane will remain, so we won't be able to do anything in the roadway. But Electric has budgeted $400,000 this budget year for lighting. They want to get it from 4th Street all the way to 8th Street. We're not sure, budget dependent with cost increases, if they can do it that whole way, but they will phase it again for next year if they don't complete it. This would look similar to the LED lights that are out at Kroger and then coming into town from the east side, but historic to downtown. So the brightness of those LED lights would be through that corridor, but not those same arms and stuff that are on the big.
Why can't we use the acorn lights?
I think that's what they're looking at, to keep it the same.
Okay, you said the lights at
Just
Kroger.
the brightness of them, the LED,
Okay,
not
okay.
the arms.
Okay,
So
gotcha.
it'll be consistent with what's downtown, maybe a little bit bigger since it's the main thoroughfare, but they will keep it historic and just add the bright lights to it.
I think if you look at Statesboro, drove into there from their campus into their downtown.
Okay.
Beautiful streetscape with tying
Okay.
that area. I was down there a couple weeks ago for the funeral.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We also, not just through the downtown Taylor Street, but actually sort of on the outskirts headed more west, there's a lot of signage issues that need to be addressed. Either buildings or businesses have closed, they've left the sign. There's a really bad one that is broken in half that we can't get anybody to contact us about. They have all been issued citations, so if they're not in compliance, they've already been cited. And they will be in court September?
One of them did not appear.
Oh, one did not appear.
And I think that there are additional conditions, but one did not appear this past Thursday.
Yeah. So that is being addressed. We're just having a difficult time getting it handled. And then lastly, with the landscape and sidewalk plan that we need to implement based on the T-SPLOST project needs to be done. There is sort of one overarching thing that I want to go ahead and address with you all because it's come up a lot in individual conversations, but also today. We feel, and I'll say we as far as myself, Ms. Cardin, Ms. Haynes, code enforcement officers, that there are a lot of times our hands are tied based on state and local law. A lot of the nuisance and code stuff we're preempted by state law in some aspects, and others we can do more. It just depends. I've actually already had several conversations with Rushi Patel, who's GMA's general counsel, particularly as it relates to vacant lots and what we can and cannot do there. Even some of the signage. So if we issued the citation, the person didn't come to court, our ability is to issue a default judgment, and then we can come back and issue a failure to appear bench warrant, and somebody's gonna get arrested for having a uncompliant sign. Which, if we're good with that, that's great. They go to jail and they're walking right back out because the sheriff doesn't have any room to keep them. So my issue is that there is zero enforcement that we can actually provide. I don't.
It's actually a little bit, it's even worse than that because ultimately what we're issuing is a default judgment, but our signage falls under our UDC, and the UDC is not a misdemeanor, meaning you cannot be put in jail. So the only ability to arrest or issue a bench warrant is for contempt of court, and we would have to bring that before the judge, and Judge Howell is great and obviously handles people who don't appear, but we just issued our first bench warrant for multiple failure to appears on one individual who had failed to appear for multiple citations since 2022. He's very resistant to doing that for things like our UDC because the law is questionable, and we have discussed it in the past with regard to nuisance abatement. You know, our current nuisance code that we utilize, that you guys hear a lot about, is under unfit buildings and structures. Well, if we're talking about a vacant lot and there's no building or structure, we have to go to the other area of nuisance in our code, and that calls for us to be able to get the court to issue a fine and for us to be able to go and remedy the property, but it doesn't enable me to put a lien on the property. So there's no ability for the city to recoup those costs. So we've prioritized the areas where we know that we can get our money back, and prioritize areas as they come up that you guys have mentioned to the best of our ability. One other area of concern though, and Land Bank has gone through this themselves, is that if a property goes to tax sale, which many vacant properties do, until the right of redemption is foreclosed, it is considered to be trespass for anybody to go onto the property. And we're seeing that more and more as the response to our nuisance complaints is that someone purchased it, they have to wait a whole year before they're allowed to go onto the before they're allowed to foreclose on the right of redemption. And if they refuse to ever do that, then it's still a trespass until they go through that legal process. And so I personally would like to see some state changes or guidance on that, because that's a civil liability. They could be sued by the person who previously owned the property. We could be sued if we go onto the property outside of a nuisance abatement action just to cut the grass. We've had to make concessions where we can, but it is a very legal gray area on what you do from here. So we've just had to, we've had to weigh and prioritize as they've come along. And the process that we currently have in place, obviously the structures are one of the main concerns. So that's where our time and dedication has gone.
How many times have we been sued for going on property that was in the right of redemption?
To my knowledge, none.
Okay.
But the issue is if we had, for example, a employee from Public Works go onto that property and there's a workman's compensation claim, that we may not have coverage actually, because they were trespassing at the time when they were injured. So that's a factor. Is that it's not just getting sued, it's our liability and our protection of not just us but our employees is in question if we're committing a trespass at the time that we do it. And ultimately for like land bank properties, for example, it's their sort of right to tell us yes or no. When it comes to the other properties, the more vacant properties, I would much rather go through a nuisance process than have our public works department, somebody fall in a hole and then we potentially risk not having any coverage because they were committing a crime at the time that we directed them to go onto the property.
I hear what you're saying. I understand it. Because my husband and my son, I sent my husband and son on a piece of property that I had been begging the city to remedy for my constituents who are taxpayers. They were elderly ladies. And to cut back, the city cut the property, but it had grown up. This is over there where some of the stuff is grown out into the street. To cut it back. And the people next door, the old ladies next door, was scared to have somebody to cut it back. But it was a problem for them because stuff was crawling out of the bushes onto their property, and they're scared to go outside at night. Like I said, this is not something that just happened one year. I know for at least the last 5 years, every summer I'm asking the city to do the same thing. We cut the lot, but they won't go back to the fence line where all this other stuff is grown up. And basically, I guess what we've told those old ladies is that they cannot go on to, it's a possibility they could be arrested if they had sent somebody over there to do it. So I understand what you're saying about the liability. But the liability of what could happen from the property to my constituents.
And so that's the point in time where we start talking civil, and so we do have a process in our ordinance. For a citizen to be able to go through a public nuisance process. We take it upon ourselves to actually do that when possible, because it does hinder the citizens, but the enforcement arm there is the same as what we would have in code enforcement. We would have the same issue where if they didn't appear, you result in the same problem. So the other avenue or the other option that's available to citizens outside of that process is a civil matter between two neighboring property owners. And I know that that's not
well,
an
I
option.
think that's the point. None of these options are good, so we need the legislature to give us one, because it's not working. And that's my point, exactly that. There's no remedy for the neighbor, for the land bank in this case that didn't foreclose the right to redeem or couldn't or whatever, or a private property owner that can't for a year, and there's really no remedy for us. So what can we do? Tell us what we can do. Fix the loop, make a loophole, fix the loophole, however you want to look at it, so that we can do exactly that, because you're not allowing us to take care of our citizens. And so tell us what we can do, but this is not working. That was my point. We need, and I've already talked with Ruchi about that.
And the other one is on North 3rd Street, where we just recently, after 15, 20 years, tore down the OVFW.
American Legion.
American Legion. Okay. We actually took down part of the resident next door's fence. And I've been for months asking, and I'm sure Ms. Curtis have. Well, how hard is it for the city to go back and put the fence back up? The fence is not up yet. And what we created next door is, even though that building is gone, the grass is growing, just growing up high, and
Yeah, I mean, that's
which
always,
counts as a nuisance too.
right, which is
Probably
always
just a bigger
risk,
nuisance to the
which is
resident
always
next
a
door.
risk that we take if we're gonna tear it down, because we're not taking ownership. So it is still the responsibility of the property owner to keep it maintained. And so they'll have to go back and cite them, and we'll be right back in this vicious cycle where if they don't come to court, there's not much we can do.
Well, did we ever find a property owner there?
Oh, yeah. Oh, did we find one? Yes.
Yes, there were majority of the people who were involved in the association itself, in the BMW group, majority of them are dead. And so we did have one person who appeared, and he said, I don't even have a key. That's why we had to get an administrative search warrant to be able to get into the building. There's no one who had authority to speak on behalf of that board to do anything with regard to it. They had no plans or intentions of paying taxes on it. And so at that point, if it goes to a tax sale, again, it gets sold at a tax sale. They have a year to redeem it before they have to go onto the property. So
But because the taxes have not been paid on it, is there any way that as a city we can take possession of it? How would we be able to take possession of the property?
Once the tax commissioner lists it for sale, the land bank can go get it.
Oh,
That's sort of been the problem. Well, exactly.
That's what the land bank is intended for, essentially, is for you to say, hey, this is a priority property, it's sitting here, it's not being taken care of, let's get the land bank involved. But I will let you know, at the advice of their attorney, the land bank's position is that going onto the property before the right of redemption is foreclosed is a trespass. So they've said it's unlikely to have suit, so they have to make concessions where they can. But if a court orders it, it's not a trespass. But then they're in the same position that we're in, where they would have to come to code enforcement court and have the court order that it be cleaned up, with no ability to be able to get those costs recovered, because that's not what's under the foreclosure of right of redemption for the actual tax statute. Doesn't allow for recovery.
I hear what you're saying, and I understand. And even if, because of right of redemption, if we can't cut the grass, at least lay the fence back up.
Well, they did. The fence is back up. There was not. She was using the side of the building as the other portion of that fence. So that's been back up for a while. But there isn't any other fence to put back up. She didn't have one on that side. She attached to the building, which is why they took it down, so they didn't want to destroy that part of the fence when they demolished it. So they took it down and moved it to her porch, and then they put it back a couple weeks later.
Okay, the front side, but the side that separate, the fence that was there that actually separated.
It wasn't. It was the building. There's not one. If you look at aerial photos.
It was the building, and then the fence was attached
to the building.
Even though it was attached to the building, it was still her fence.
There wasn't anything. The fence stopped at this part of the building, and the building went back this way, and then the fence reattached back there. There was no fence on that side.
The building was the fence.
Yes. Just like that. But this part was the building.
Okay, so, well, if it's her property, where the fence should have been?
I think she had encroached on their property to put the fence where she had it. But we don't, that's surveys and everything that we don't get involved in. That's a civil matter, that's private property.
It does look like it was. That was my aunt's property.
Yeah.
And I know that property been there 100 years. And the VFW might have been there. But there was a separation, her yard and that fence.
Well, as of February 2025, before we demolished it, there was not a fence along that building. They had attached to the building and were using that side as the fence.
And I have the tax assessor picture pulled up from 2023, and actually you can see it from this corner as well.
And I hear what you're saying.
It attaches.
I hear exactly what you're saying. what do you estimate the cost would be to put a fence at where, cause I see it's the back side of the yard that was fenced in. It ain't like the fence was gonna go from here all the way down to Louise's restaurant. It's just a small portion. What would it have cost the city to put the fence up?
We can't.
We can't add to the additional fences there because it's a gratuity. So we can put up what was already there. So if we were to put up what was already there, you've got just the corner piece, and then there would be the gap where the building was, and then the remainder of the fence. But we can't provide a gratuity, and the court order only allowed us to demolish the structure and return it to grade. It doesn't allow us to put any sort of additional installation aside from what is already present.
I mean, I can't ask them to come to my house and build a fence. We can't.
No, but you didn't have the VFW encroaching into your yard without what she's had to put up with for the last 10 to 15 years with rodents and bats and everything else crawling into her yard because of what was there.
I don't have any other updates. Unless anybody has any questions or comments.
Any other questions, comments, recommendations?
It seems like when it comes to the grass, the cutting of the grass, and I know people are responsible for their own yards and stuff, in certain areas they're not. And I'm not understanding why so much grass is grown. It's out of control in certain areas across this railroad track. But when I come to this side, it all clean, and I see them cutting, and nobody complaining, not that I know of. But most of my constituents, they complain like, well, why are they not cutting the grass over here? Or I can't pull out in the road unless you can't see behind the bushes. Some of the sidewalks are overgrown. I mean, why is it like that? I mean, the city work for the whole entire city, right? Like
they do. They have a complete rotation of the entire city. It takes 2.5 weeks to cut the entire city.
Well, but apparently, they're not rotating on that side of town. They may rotate, but not maybe as often.
Are you talking about old railroad property?
No, I'm talking about just the property across the railroad track.
Okay.
I'm talking about
the easement property.
The easement
Is that what you're talking about? Easement property.
That's what I'm talking about. It never seems to be, I mean, just clean, like it should be. You know, taxpayers on that side, just like everybody else. But like I say, a lot of the sidewalks and stuff are grown up. It's like it really, you can just look at it like two different parts of the city. Like this side doesn't belong to this side of the city.
Well, and I will say, I think there's an education piece there as well. If you have a sidewalk between your yard, a sidewalk, and you have more grass, that's yours to cut. That's
I know that. I'm not really talking about that part. It's just like corner lots, and then maybe where people have torn down buildings, and then that land owners
that's private property.
They don't come back and cut it.
General lack of maintenance of a lot.
I'm talking about general lack of maintenance of the entire city on that side of town, not just the lots and stuff. Like I was just saying.
We've always had a problem though, particularly in the summer months.
Yeah.
Not having enough staff to get out with tractors and
But see, maybe that's it. That's the solution I'm looking for. Maybe you don't have enough employees or.
If it's general maintenance of those corner lots, and we're talking about either where things have been torn down through the nuisance process, or may be listed for tax sale but haven't been sold yet, when those get overgrown, we do still continue to cite them in court. And I'll let you know, we're already almost through. We started citing we just had our cases for May come to court, but we're citing so frequently to attempt to address the issue that we're almost completely done with booking for September court. And we're going to start writing for October, and we're not even to the end of July at this point. But that's part of why we attempted to address that zone 1 area. And I do have a list of properties that we went through and we addressed both from a nuisance and code perspective. just a full list and a spreadsheet of what has been done with those private property owners to attempt to address that. But if it's private property, that's our avenues through code enforcement. And that's what we were talking about, where our hands can be tied if we can't get someone to appear in court. The city can't go onto the property and cut it without a court order, and we've prioritized the properties where we have dilapidated housing that may end up being, you know, a safety concern, because that's where, you know, the objective was given from the board and has been for several years, is residential and commercial properties.
Okay, I got one more question, and then I'm done. What if you have a property that, I mean, it's an empty lot, but you don't know who owned it because a big old tree have just covered it? It's on Morris Street.
We can find out who owns it, that's not a problem.
It been sitting there for a minute. Some of the residents said they had been calling, so I don't know if they have or not, but it's horrible looking because it's in between two houses, and it's a huge tree. It didn't hit a house, and thank God it didn't hit a roadway when someone was coming, but it need to be up. It's right down in between, like, I think that's Tinsley and Chapel. Is that Tinsley? Yeah, Tinsley and Chapel. Right in the middle of that, on Morris Street.
Okay.
And that's it.
Wake up.
Anything else?
Make a
All right.
motion, do we?
It's 2:27. We're gonna make a motion
much
to
for-
adjourn.
So much for
Second.
12 o'clock.
Motion from Commissioner Tinsley, second by Commissioner Murray. All in favor, please go back to your
Go home, take a nap, come back.